Welcome to today's webinar. Our webinar today is titled From Housekeeping to High Scores, the Clean Path to Guest Advocacy. Before we get started with today's webinar, I would like to walk through a few housekeeping notes. All attendees' microphones have been muted to keep us running smoothly and on time. Also, all attendees' cameras have been disabled to help ensure that we have a great quality connection for today's expert. A few other housekeeping notes. We will be conducting some live webinar polls. So we will have two polls that will be used throughout today's presentation, which you will be able to interact with within the chat feature of Microsoft Teams. And then we encourage everybody to leverage the Q&A feature to ask any questions during today's webinar, which we will answer at the end of today's event. One additional feature that we have is that all of the slides will be shown in English today. However, you do have the availability within Teams to go ahead and translate them into your preferred or native language if you choose. As you can see here on the screen, the way in which to do that is if you look at the bottom of Microsoft Teams, you should see three little dots. If you click on those dots, there is an option that says Translate Slides, and then you can choose your preferred language. Again, it will translate anything that is a text on a slide. It will not translate the image. But again, today's presentation will be presented visually in English and audioly in English as well. So with that, what I would like to do is introduce our expert, Jill Gelderman. She is our lead technical account specialist for Global Institutional here at Ecolab. Jill is responsible for providing technical support across Ecolab's global hospitality and food service customers. And she has worked in our research and development and regulatory team really to develop solutions and partner with our customers to achieve their desired outcomes. Jill holds a bachelor's degree in chemical engineering from Iowa State University. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Jill for the remainder of today's webinar.
Amazing. Thanks for the introduction, Melissa, and welcome everyone to today's webinar. As Melissa introduced, I'm excited to share with you some tangible ways that you can leverage your housekeeping operation to impact your overall guests' experience. So let's dive in. Before we get started, I want to start with a quick poll, as Melissa mentioned. So please put in the poll when it pops up. What are some of your top drivers or challenges when it comes to guest satisfaction? I'm seeing cleanliness, age of the hotel, stains, clean bathroom, hair and odors, great one. Staff, mold, turnovers. Oh, I see pets popping up. Cleanliness continues to be the first one. Great. Well, thank you for the feedback. These are all amazing drivers and challenges that pop up in the hotel, and I think we'll be able to give you some ideas and ways to tackle some of these throughout today's webinar. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the content. So recently, American Hotel and Lodging Association conducted a survey where they asked guests what their most likely reason was to leave both a positive and a negative review of a hotel. And as you can see in the charts on the slide, cleanliness was the most likely reason for a guest to leave both a positive and negative review. And this came up as the top thing in the poll we just did. Housekeeping plays a critical role in maintaining the cleanliness of a hotel and ultimately positively impacting your guest satisfaction. So this AHLA data showcases that creating a cleaner, safer, inviting environment has never been more vital to the success of your business. And the expectations, standards, and risks are frankly all higher. And there's a lot that goes into running a hotel, as you all know best. So Ecolab's been the trusted partner you need to help rise to the challenge and power the outcomes that matter most for your business, whether it's from housekeeping to water management to training, etc. Today, however, we'll be focusing on housekeeping specifically plays a vital role in delivering that consistent cleanliness across your property. So with that, today, our agenda will start with an overview of housekeeping and then dive into the critical role of selecting the right products, the right tools, and the right procedures to deliver consistent cleanliness. We will have time for Q&A at the end, and as Melissa walked through at the beginning, feel free to leverage the Q&A function as questions come to mind. So with that, there are two key housekeeping challenges that I want to focus on today. The first is that housekeeping is inherently a manual process. It requires people to clean. Secondly, in the last 5 years, there's been a significant shift in guest trends, including more prevalent and persistent odors and the occurrence and longevity of stains. Both of these popped up when we asked you the challenges you face. So for example, some hotels have started allowing their furry friends as guests, which can present new cleaning and odor challenges, which we'll talk about a little more later on. But how do we achieve a heightened level of cleanliness and meet our guest expectations without overutilizing our labor force? Well, one way to optimize is using the 5 factors of clean, particularly those that are more labor intensive: time, mechanical action, and overall procedures. So today you'll hear some ways to improve the time needed to act and how selecting the right chemistry can minimize mechanical action and simplify overall cleaning procedures, which ultimately results in a more efficient operation for you. So as we've discussed, cleanliness plays a critical role in guest satisfaction, and housekeeping is inherently a manual process. So how do we use these 5 factors of clean to ensure superior results without overextending costs or labor? One best practice is to use a multi-purpose product like a one-step disinfectant. Because this product does not require a pre-cleaning step, you can save valuable resources like time and labor by both cleaning and disinfecting in just one application. By only wiping the surface once to achieve the desired outcome, you're also minimizing the amount of mechanical action required. Additionally, selecting a disinfectant with a broad claim set will ensure you're addressing many pathogens with just one product. We're approaching the season where there's things like norovirus, influenza, RSV, and even SARS-CoV-2 are going to start popping up. When evaluating disinfectants, contact time is a critical piece of information as it relates directly to your operational efficiency. Using a disinfectant for 10 minutes versus 30 seconds has a direct impact. A long contact time, as stated, translates to less efficiency, so selecting a product that can disinfect in less time frees up your staff to complete other necessary tasks. So when it comes to cleaning a hotel room, Ecolab takes all these factors we've discussed into play with a simplified housekeeping program. You only need 3 total products to clean, disinfect, and freshen a hotel room. This is a daily program, and it typically includes a multi-purpose cleaner and disinfectant for high touch points, glass, and mirrors. It includes a bathroom cleaner designed to remove soils common in the bathroom, like soap scum and body oils. And then lastly, an odor control solution to leave the room smelling fresh and clean for the next guest. You can see the graphic on the right provides a visual of where each of these 3 products would be used in the guest room. And these 3 daily use products really build the foundation for a simplified housekeeping program, But we know that sometimes those unique challenges arise. So this is where we can pull in the needed problem-solving specialty products you see in the bottom of the slide. So let's talk about one common challenge next that actually came up in the poll. A common challenge that is found in primarily the bathroom of hotels is mold and mildew. It can grow in almost any environment that is warm and moist. Think like a shower or a bath. And it can be very unappealing to guests. How do we tackle it? The first step when it comes to mold and mildew is actually to kill it. This prevents the mold and mildew from lingering on the surface and spreading to other surfaces. To kill mold and mildew, we need to apply an EPA-registered antimicrobial with a mildew static claim. For example, Scrub-Free Bathroom Cleaner and Disinfectant has this claim registered through EPA. This ensures that you want to make sure that the product remains on the surface for the contact time that's on the product label. Once we've disinfected the mold and mildew, we can then remove the stains left behind with a bleach-based product like Lemon Lift or Gel Pro. Again, we apply the product and let it work on those stains for about 5 to 10 minutes. You can gently scrub it with a brush as needed, and then we want to make sure we thoroughly rinse the surface to remove any remaining chemistry or discoloration. And last, but definitely not least, in my opinion, is to make sure we prevent the mold and mildew. Anytime you're cleaning a shower or bathroom, you want to make sure you thoroughly rinse and dry the surface. As mentioned before, mold and mildew can grow in almost any environment that is warm and moist. So preventing any standing water or excess moisture is a great way to prevent mold and mildew from growing and spreading. So with that, let's actually shift gears and talk about another common challenge in housekeeping that again popped up in the poll, odors. So before we jump in, I want to hear from you. What are the biggest odor challenges or needs in your property? I see smoke in the chat. Drains, humidity, yep. Mildew smell, smoke, pets and smoke. We have marijuana in there. Drains in the showers, carpet. Great. Great. So I'm seeing smoke seem to be up the most. I see a lot on AC and humidity. We won't talk about this today, but definitely have solutions for that. And feel free to connect with your Ecolab representative and we can get you more information. So let's dive into odors. So when it comes to clean, the nose knows. Olfactory cues can actually make or break a guest's perception of an operation, as we saw in the survey results earlier. The sense of smell is most closely linked to memory and emotion, both positive and negative. I don't know if you've ever had a situation where you walk in a room and immediately trigger a memory because of that smell. I know it happens to me. So hence the reason it's so critical to ensure that those stepping foot in your operation are delighted by what they smell. Those first impressions truly do matter. However, not all odors are the same. Ecolab's air care solutions target and eliminate a variety of odors using different scientific approaches. The first is pairing. This is where we combine a fragrance with the odor to create a pleasant new scent. For example, fish and citrus are odor opposites. So when we pair fish odors with a citrus fragrance, we can actually trick the brain to cancel out the odor. And every malodor has an opposite where we can leverage pairing. The second is binding, where this actually traps the odor molecule and creates a new unscented molecule. And then the last is biodegrading, which actually uses enzymatic action to break down the source of the odor. I actually like to compare this to a Pac-Man eating those odor molecules. And so Ecolab solutions use these three scientific tactics, or a combination of, to target and eliminate a variety of odors, most of which came up in your responses. But before we can apply any scientific approach to tackling and controlling odors, the critical first step is to identify the source. Some common causes of odor are listed here, but identifying the source ensures the appropriate action is taken and the right scientific solutions are used to remove and correct the cause of the odor. If we're not identifying the source, we might be using the wrong solution and just continuously trying to tackle the odor in the wrong way. So now that we know the science behind odors and we've identified the source, let's talk about the right solutions. So as we've seen, there's a wide variety of odors and not all odors can be treated equally. There's your everyday run-of-the-mill, musty smells, and then there's the more stubborn, persistent odors like smoke, marijuana, food, or human waste. Ecolab has products that meet each of these unique challenges. We have room refreshers, which use pair and bind technology to tackle everyday odors. We have Zephyr, which uses pair and bind technology to tackle tough odors like food and smoke, both tobacco and marijuana. And then we have bioenzymatic, which uses pair, bind, and biodegrade technology to go after those bio-based odors like urine, pet, and body odors. So when considering labor efficiency, opting for a problem-solving product like Zephyr or bioenzymatic ensures your staff can take care of any foul odor without wasting a minute. We'll go into more detail on both of these problem-solving solutions next. So let's start with smoke odors. So we've heard from you and your peers in the survey that smoke smells, both tobacco and marijuana, are a challenge. So we actually partnered with the local police station and designed Zephyr to specifically pair and bind with odors for both marijuana and tobacco to neutralize those smells. Combining an odor control product like Zephyr with a tool like the Fogmaster Junior drives your operational efficiency even further. This applicator actually dispenses a fine mist that's capable of penetrating fabrics to ensure that the product can bind to every last odor molecule, so you can ultimately turn over the room faster. When it comes to procedures, Zephyr should be applied to all fabric surfaces in the room. We recommend starting at the back of the room and working your way to top to bottom until you reach the door. You want to make sure that you open any closet doors and close those curtains so that we can get every last odor molecule that may be lingering. So next, let's switch gears and talk about biological odors. We like to say this is for our 3 Ps, pee, poop, and puke. It's also really good on things like mold and mildew and garbage, so anything bio-based. So as mentioned before, an emerging trend that may be popping up in your hotels over the last few years is hotels are welcoming pets as guests. And this can create a unique challenge. So we have bioenzymatic odor eliminator, pairs, binds, and biodegrades. This is an ideal solution for not only pet-friendly hotels or not pet-friendly hotels that may have pets, but also workout rooms, locker rooms, restrooms, or anywhere your trash may be stored. When it comes to procedures, the first step for bioenzymatic is to identify the source of the odor. Did Frodo have an accident in the corner of the room? Let's try and figure out where that is. Next, we'll clean and remove any visible soil and disinfect the area as needed. Step 3 is to apply product directly to the source of the odor. Bioenzymatic will immediately pair and bind with the odor molecules, while the enzymes will go to work eating the odors and keep the odor away over time. For hard surfaces, we want to make sure we generously apply product to problem areas and let it air dry. For soft surfaces, we want to generate the soiled area, blot any excess product, and then let it air dry. When the source of the odor is not evident, it's recommended to treat fabric surfaces along the baseboards. Again, it's not recommended to spray this product in the air. It's supposed to be directly on the source. So with that, today we covered an overview of housekeeping, then dove into the critical role of the right products, right tools, and procedures to deliver consistent cleanliness. I hope you have some tangible ways you can bring this back to your properties. Thank you so much for your time and attention today. And with that, we'll move over to Q&A.
Great. Thank you, Jill, for the great presentation today on housekeeping, really talking about our simplified housekeeping program, and then going into two of the common challenges, right? Mold and mildew being number one and odor being number two. On that, as I look at Q&A, there's a couple of questions that have come in. One of them is around how often should I be rotating fragrances of my air fresheners?
That is an excellent question. So for the room refreshers, we actually recommend changing fragrances about once a quarter. Why we recommend doing this is your staff can actually become desensitized to the scent and maybe tend to overuse it. So by rotating those fragrances, we make sure that we're using just the right amount to leave a fresh fragrance and not getting desensitized to any of that. So about once a quarter is recommended.
Great, thank you. Continuing on odor, we have a few questions on that. Another question is around, are technologies like UV, ozone, or on-site generation devices as effective as a chemical disinfectant?
That is also a good question. So a little bit of it depends. We created a chemical solution because we can really pack in those three scientific approaches into one product to get after those problem solving things. The challenges we've seen with some of the UV and ozone devices is one, they're in one location in the room, so they might not get into the bathroom and the nooks and crannies when dispensing the product into the room. And really, we have to make sure we make contact with every odor molecule in the room to make sure that we're eliminating the odor. The second is a safety profile. Ozone specifically requires about 24 hours to dissipate. It can be in high quantities, very unsafe. And so we want to make sure that if we're using a solution like that, we do it in a really, really safe manner. And sometimes that takes a lot of time. So really, Zephyr is designed to be a quick application, make sure we're getting in all those nooks and crannies, and then it's also PPE free for your staff. Great question.
Fantastic. Thank you. Another question that we have from the attendees asks, is there a spray for binding odors?
Yes, so both room refreshers and Ecolab Zephyr solutions use binding technology. So basically within the technology, it's kind of like an encapsulation. So the chemistry encapsulates the odor molecule and neutralizes it and turns it into a neutral scent. And so that technology is in all Ecolab solutions to bind and neutralize odors.
One more question that we have on odor, because odor seems to be a hot topic here, is
It always is.
One of the attendees has a current situation, it sounds like.
Okay.
They've noted here that they have a room that they've worked on for 3 days to remove a persistent, we'll say upset stomach smell, right? They mentioned that the carpet has been shampooed 3 times, the furniture has been moved. They've used a bio enzyme spray. The only thing they haven't done is lifted up the pad. They also currently have a large commercial ozone machine in there, but they're a little concerned that it's not going to help it. Is there any other suggestions you could give them?
You're doing all the right things. I actually would recommend, I have a few ideas in mind, but since you have a very unique situation, I would love to either send myself a note and we'll get you in contact with your Ecolab rep. I'd love to have someone come on site and help take a look at it and see what other things we can implement. Sounds like a tough situation. Keep doing what you're doing. We'll be there to help. Feel free to send myself or your Ecolab rep a note.
Perfect. Thank you. Switching gears back on the simplified housekeeping program that you talked about a little bit earlier on, is around, should we be disinfecting our floors?
That's a great question. So this can kind of go both ways. Generally, floors do not tend to be a huge transmitter of that requires disinfection. Typically, the soils that are found on floors tend to be from foot traffic and shoes. However, in some cases, customers do opt in to disinfect their floors as another peace of mind. In a hotel room, if you have like a bathroom that you want to disinfect, we went through our 3 products. This is a great opportunity to use your multi-purpose disinfectant cleaner. Obviously, if there's an incident on a floor that requires disinfection, we would always recommend disinfecting. So it's a little bit of a personal preference in general. As long as you're cleaning the floors, that's great. If there's an incident, we want to make sure we disinfect. But if you want the peace of mind, you are welcome to opt to disinfect across the floors.
Another question that we have reads, can I replace my current disinfectant with a residual chemistry as a labor-saving measure?
Great question. Generally, no, there's some nuance. It depends. So there's some nuances with residual chemistry. They're great for certain times and places. What the chemistry actually does is it basically applies on the surface and helps prevent initial bacteria growth. However, if there's any form of contamination on the surface, that residual chemistry becomes ineffective. So if we apply other products, if we have large contact with the surface, it may invalidate the residual chemistry. So typically in guest rooms, we still recommend using a daily use disinfectant just because of the exposure to the different guests, etc. But there's some places that a residual chemistry may be applicable. Happy to have a conversation and discuss that further for the unique unique aspects of your property. Bottom line, daily disinfectant's best.
Thank you so much. It looks like we have addressed all of the Q&A that's in the chat and in the Q&A section. So I appreciate everybody who put that out there. With that, I would like to thank you all for attending today's webinar titled From Housekeeping to High Scores, the Clean Path to Guest Advocacy. We will be uploading a recording of today's webinar to ecolab.com within our on-demand webinar section. So for those of you who are attending today's webinar, you will get a follow-up email with that link to share it out with others within your organization. And then additionally, we will be posting a link of the recording on Ecolab's Instagram and Facebook feed. So please keep an eye out for that as well. But before we let you go, I would like to mention that in honor of International Housekeepers and Environmental Services Week, which is the week of September 14th through the 20th, Ecolab will be recognizing and celebrating housekeeping heroes here specifically in the U.S. who work hard to keep hotels clean, safe, and healthy for guests. So we encourage you to nominate a housekeeper by September 20th for a chance for them to win a prize valued up to $500. So to nominate your housekeeper and explore appreciation tools that we have put together, you can scan the QR code that you see here on the screen or visit the URL that you see at the bottom. So with that, we appreciate everybody's time today, you attending this webinar, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you.